Welcome to Local Leverage, the podcast that helps you grow your business. Today, we're sitting down with a true real estate prodigy. At just 18 years old, she skipped college to pursue a full-time career in real estate, a super bold decision that's paid off tremendously. She's attracted millions of followers across social platforms like TikTok, YouTube, and Instagram, making her one of the youngest real estate influencers on social media. After gaining her expertise as a real estate agent, she niched down and began specializing in real estate investment of all types, recently surpassing over $1 million in annual revenue. Today we're going to discuss her mindset as she's grown and built her teams, as well as how she approaches and leverages social media, and why she's still primarily focused on outbound lead generation. Please join me in welcoming today's guest, Vayna Jerabek.
Hello, hello. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, that's our pleasure. Man, I've got so much to ask you. I'm just very impressed by what you've accomplished at such an early age. You got started in investing at 18 years old, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So, I got to ask, I know that you're a big proponent of mindset, but for an 18-year-old to have the gumption and the drive to tackle this, I want to know more about kind of how you got into that and how you maintain a mindset of positivity and abundance to make this happen.
I appreciate that. It's really funny because I actually was raised on Jim Rohn and Zig Ziglar. So growing up, driving in the car, my dad would have these tapes on. And so I was like 6, 7, 8 years old listening to, you've got to have goals and don't be the employer, be the employee. So, I was encouraged to not go to college and start a business when I was young. And I think it's a big part of it. But also, I saw financial struggle when I was younger and there was all this stuff swirling around. So I just kind of realized that I don't have to go to college and get a normal job and be chained to a desk for 50 years. That was very scary to me. So just by, there's so much information on the internet now, just by going on YouTube University and learning and surrounding myself in that conversation, it's all of my Instagram feed and all of my TikTok feed is all the mindset and the motivation and all this. So I think just keeping it front and center has been what really keeps me going.
That's great. So, was your dad or your parents, were they entrepreneurs as well?
Mm-hmm.
They were. Okay. So, do you think that directly shaped your desire to be an entrepreneur, or did it give you maybe the path or the possibility to do that?
Yeah, I would say so, of course. Just being kind of, my dad says I learned by osmosis just because I was around it. It's funny because my dad's a real estate agent. He's still very traditional real estate agent, not very much investing. I branched out into wholesaling and investing. But when I was younger, I didn't want to go into real estate because my dad was working all the time and he was late for stuff and all of this. So I was like, that doesn't look good. But then when I did compare it to like a corporate job, 9 to 5, I really wasn't familiar with that until my mom got a 9 to 5 when I was younger. But I was just like, I didn't want to at first. But then when I saw the freedom in the real estate industry and what I could do there, then it became appealing.
Yeah, yeah. Were they supportive of this, like right from the get-go? And did your parents say, hey, yeah, you should do this and not go to college? Or
pretty much. Yeah, so that was kind of my gift when I was younger. It's still like the biggest decision I ever made in my life. Like the hardest decision I've ever made was when I decided to quit college to get into real estate. And my mom, when I was talking to her, she's like, yeah, you should go to college to have a plan B. But I was like, you know what? I'm young. I'm living at home. I don't have bills. I could skip a year of college, try out the real estate thing. And if I really suck at real estate, I can just go back to college. So that was where I had the privilege to just try it. And that's the benefit that young people have. A lot
Absolutely.
of us do for that.
You have less obligations and all these things. If you're going to try things, I think when you're young is the absolute best time. Go take some big home run swings, and if it works out, awesome. And if it doesn't, then get on with your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Were there moments then, I got to imagine that there were moments in the early days when you're bumping along and maybe second guessing this decision, like, oh man, I should just probably pull the plug and go to college?
There was a lot of like, am I cut out for this? Can I do this? I was 18 trying to cold call strangers to ask them to buy their house or sell their house. So I was like, what benefit is there to someone double, triple my age to sell their house with me? I was doing a lot of real estate coaching and I was doing this with my friends. So very early on, I made a couple friends who actually wanted to do this too. They were on a similar path. And so we were just doing it together and having each other. It really made all the difference. Like I've basically been doing accountability since day one.
That's great. That's really cool that you were able to find some young folks to do it with and that you can rely on. Are there situations you can think of where you had to be a crutch for them or them for you?
Oh yeah, for sure. There were times like the promise was we all get to the office at 9 a.m. to prospect together. And so if you didn't show up to the office, you had to go run a mile or give everyone a $10 or whatever it is. Like the worst part of it was though, like not the punishment, but they'd call us up or we'd call them up and we'd be like, where the hell are you? Are you like, do you not want to make money today? Are you all the worst things you can say to someone.
That's the kick in the ass that you need sometimes,
yes,
right? It's
exactly.
that accountability.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's cool. So when you started out, did you start out strictly wholesaling?
No, I started out as an agent. So I was playing the agent game for a couple years. I will say, you didn't ask me to do this, but I was using Property Radar since day one. My real estate coach recommended it. He was like, okay, you don't know anyone who wants to sell or buy, so you need to go pull a list and call all these people and make calls to homeowners. So I was playing the agent game for like 3 years full time. And then year 3 is when I got into wholesaling and everything grew from there.
Yeah, so you kind of saw a little bit of the up and the down, I'm assuming, in that time frame. Were you able to secure listings, or were you representing buyers mainly?
I did a lot of buyers the first couple years. I did a handful of listings. So listings were coming from cold calling. I was working with the hedge fund with the buyers. But yeah, my business now is 99% seller. So that's in classical agent training where you want to be is all sellers.
Yeah.
Buyers are a headache.
So when you were doing that, when you had the friends and you're coming in and having kind of cold calling days, was that the drudgery of the job? I mean, did you like to be more in the deal, the buy, the sell, or did you come to like cold calling and all of the prospecting activity?
Yeah, I definitely hated cold calling at first. No one
Not
likes it. It's
alone.
not fun. There's nothing sexy about cold calling. But the mindset shift for me was, I'm not trying to convince anyone to sell their house. I'm looking for the people who need help. And so the reason I became a real estate agent and what really kind of when it clicked for me being a real estate agent, I saw all these people who are out there, doing the agent thing. And I was like, okay, if these people can do it, I can do it. And what I saw in the early days was there were all these agents who were not doing a good job for the sellers. They were working against their own clients, negotiating against them, just trying to get the house sold, just trying to put a listing on their name. And so I was like, there's a lot of shady agents in this business. So for me, I'm like, then it really can't be hard to separate myself. If I just do a good job for these sellers and I show them I'm on their side, I could probably earn a lot of business. And that was the mindset that I took onto my cold calls, was that it's literally my duty to reach out to these people before the shady agent gets to them. So with that mindset, it made it a lot easier and it made it feel like my job to actually reach out to homeowners and provide value.
I love that framing, and I think that sometimes represents a big obstacle for people getting into the investment side. Is like, how do I do this in a way that's going to be on the up and up and beneficial to the people that I'm working with versus just of course, so many stories of people being more predatory and that sort of thing. And so, how have you kept yourself on the right side of that equation? Like, what do you do purposefully to be in a helpful position versus just finding opportunities no matter what?
Yeah, at this point, I've closed hundreds of deals and hundreds of off-market deals direct to the seller at discounts, and it's all about providing value. All of my sellers know how much they could get on the market and what they'd take away. But because we present the off-market offer as a service of convenience,
Yeah.
they are okay with it. They know that they could get more if they did all the work of listing it. But with the wholesale, with the cash offer, it's the easy way. And that's why, I don't do a lot of like targeted lists. I pull big lists of people who've just owned their house for a long time.
Interesting.
Because that's the demographic that just wants to move on to the next thing. They're tired, they got a bunch of equity in their house, they just want to cash out and go. And they don't want to work with realtors, they don't want to pay the commissions, etc. So when we call and we're just offering the easy way and the cash offer, of course we get barked at for our pricing and they negotiate us up. Happens all the time, every day. But, at the end of the day, we are in a good market here in Seattle. There's high demand for the housing. So, it is at a discount of what they would get on market, but it's usually pretty close. So,
On that side, are you the one that typically is helping them to understand what the kind of the resale market value would be? Are you providing that? Are you allowing them to do that research, and how do you approach that?
Yeah, when they're open to it and when they want some education on it, a lot of my off-market sellers, they do bring in an agent to represent them, which is totally fine. We'll work through the agent. So they generally have an idea of market value. If they're unrepresented and totally green to selling a house because they haven't done it in 50 years, then I do like to be a resource, and they appreciate that we provide value with the market value versus the cash offer and just giving those options. I still have my real estate license, and 5 years of doing this, becoming really experienced and familiar with the market has been a big value add to the sellers.
I'm sure. Do you find it's kind of a universal truth that property owners always believe that their home's worth a lot more than it actually is?
No, I don't. We can't, because that would be a limiting belief. We hear it on the cold calls all the time. I want $1 million, but no, we get a lot of realistic sellers
So they're not just looking to Zillow and going, "Oh, well, this is what this estimate is." Therefore,
no, we hear a lot of it, but they're just not motivated.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit more, because I want to dig into this concept of kind of how you define opportunities and target. So you're not getting super niche. You're focused on people that have owned the home maybe 20 years and have high equity. Is that generally the parameters you use? Is there anything else?
That's generally what we go for. Houses built before 1990, owned for 20 plus years. Sometimes we play with equity, sometimes we don't. For me, we're pulling about 100,000 records a month. And so I do like to play around with the list. And that's why we can't get too targeted, because this big list I'm pulling has all the targeted stuff in it anyway. But just, when I think about who is my ideal seller, I want someone who's been there for 20 years or more. They're tired, not too concerned with squeezing every dollar out of the property, and they want that convenient cash offer. There's a lot of repairs to be made on the house,
Right.
et cetera, et cetera.
Deferred maintenance and things. So I'm a big believer in like really getting targeted and niching down in your messaging. How are you making sure that, whether it be your cold calls or your direct mail or whatever other outreach you're doing, how do you make sure that it's relevant and coming across, so that it's going to resonate with that person?
Yeah, this is the conversation that I have with the team basically every day, because it really depends on the personality that we hear on the other end of the phone.
So it's reactive in the moment.
Totally. So generally, we hear a lot of, "Hello, what do you want?" Da, da, da. And so we just be direct right back. We mirror the energy and the personality. If it's an old lady and, "Hello, how are you?" right on the cold call, like she's asking us how we are, then, we're asking, "How are you back?" We're building rapport. So it definitely depends on who we've got on the other end of the phone.
Yeah. So is cold calling your primary method of outreach?
Cold calling is 88% of our deals.
Wow.
Are coming from cold calling right now. I've done a lot of direct mail in the past, but those two have been the biggest ones.
Great. How did you come to that? I mean, it sounds like you tried some different things. How did you land on cold calling as being the best approach for your business?
I've just been doing it since day one. It's the cheapest. And it's, for me, training people locally here in Washington, it has been the best teacher of how to sell and how to talk about the market, because you're literally getting 50 to 150 reps in every day of
feedback,
just talking
right?
to homeowners. Exactly.
Yeah. So you've hired local resources. You didn't go the VA route, or do you have some combination?
Yeah, no, I have administrative virtual assistants out in the Philippines. Most wholesale companies, as you know, will do the VA. They'll hire a bunch of VAs and then they'll close on the leads. I have gone the local route because that's what I've been doing for a few years with my team is I hire people locally, I teach them how to do it, and then they go do it. And I just like it a lot better than the VA calls the seller and then it connects to someone else and someone else and someone
Right.
else. It creates a way better connection with their sellers because we're doing average 30K rips. We want to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best possible chance from the get-go.
I'm assuming that your day looks a lot like an inside sales manager's.
Kind of, a little bit. I'm doing a lot of managing, a lot of training in my day to day. I still go out and meet the sellers, of course. But a lot of deal analysis is what I do, is actually looking at the deals. What can we actually offer cash? What's the market value? I want to empower the team to be able to have the conversations with the owners because that's how they learn. So I just give them some information, some comps, and then they have the conversation.
Very cool. How big is your team at this point?
I had 10 people last year and we're ramping it up. I currently have 30.
Wow.
And the goal is probably 50. I'm new to doing the huge team model, and so we'll see. I'm pretty much just integrating like the agent model of having a huge team into wholesaling. And it's going pretty good so far.
How has that transition been for you? I mean, as you're managing more people and you got all these different plays being run, I'm assuming there's new challenges that emerge, and you're having to evolve at the same pace that the business is. So how are you doing that? What's that look like?
It's really fun. I love it because it's forcing me to build systems and processes. Between myself and the administrative virtual assistant, we stay very busy with handling everything and scaling it up. It's all just in like the automation and clear expectations and processes with the team. A lot of it is just, okay, they're all out there looking for deals. They're not all great. We've got good training to teach them how to pre-qualify the seller and make sure it's real, make sure they're not getting sold and got by the seller. And just having like really clear processes for how things go has been really, really effective.
Has that been a challenge for you to kind of now all of a sudden be responsible for standing up tech and evaluating and determining which way to go and how to deploy it?
For me, no, it's been fun just because I do like to build those systems and processes. I'm not an analytical mind by any means, but I'm kind of stepping into the role of business owner versus salesperson, and that's where I want to be instead of out here on the streets grinding with the sellers. So I'm really enjoying it. There's been challenges, but the communities I'm in, my mentors, etc., just having people and resources to lean on and tap into has really helped a lot with building everything up.
I noticed from kind of prior conversations, but that you have mentors or coaches, and Thatch being one of them. How instrumental has that been in your development and execution? And what does that look like for you today? I'm assuming you have more than just maybe one coach or one mentor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had a real estate coach for years and years who helped me get good at selling. And then I started with Thatch like 4 years ago now. He's my investing coach. And more than that, it's probably like a life coach at this point because he helps with so much more than just real estate. It's mindset and life and all these things. I've also done a lot of Tony Robbins. And so I'm pretty much just coaching with Thatch, regularly, but then I like to go out to Tony Robbins events and such not. I get together with a lot of my friends who are also involved in all of this, and we just do our own little masterminds. So, probably like once a month I have some sort of like at least one day event where I'm spending time, focusing on my mindset and my business and looking at everything as a whole.
Nice. How would you recommend people find the best mentor for them, and what do you have to bring to that mentor-mentee relationship?
You know, what I believe about finding a mentor, this is kind of woo woo, but I think that if you are just on the path and you're like doing the work, those mentors will naturally appear. Because that's literally what happened for me. I was making calls in my office one day, and the yoga teacher next door happened to be a real estate investor, heard me on my calls, and taught me wholesaling. And so I really do believe, like, we call it alignment. When you're just on your path and you're doing your thing, everything will come together. With the mentor-mentee relationship, like with all the people on my team, I wouldn't say I magically appeared in front of them, maybe because a lot of them have come from social media, my Instagram. That's how I've attracted a lot of the people who are working in my office every day. What you have to provide to a mentor is your time and finding deals. I get a lot of messages of like, hey, I'll be your assistant for free to learn from you. I'll work for you for free, blah, blah, blah. It's less about that, because even that is like asking them to create a role for you versus you understanding their business, what they do, and figuring out how you can actually be proactive and add value there. So that's my advice.
That's really interesting. Have you, I'm just thinking about going back to kind of the team and the evolution of this team, in addition to kind of the owner hat, right, or the leader hat, how are you changing behavior or your activities to now be more of a leader, right? Because now you're having to create vision and culture and all of these different things. Like, how is that evolution going, and how are you approaching that?
That's a good question. If I'm being honest, the number one struggle is probably being people pleasy. Like, I want to make everybody on the team happy, and I want them to feel like Vayna's here for them. Because like if they have an appointment and it's not that great and I say no, I'm like, well, but I want them to go learn and blah, blah. They probably want to see how the appointment's done, etc. And so managing my time and just being very clear with expectations and boundaries has been the biggest thing. And, I love educating people. It truly is my passion and my purpose, is teaching and showing. I feel like I've been so blessed and privileged to learn so much and achieve so much at this age. And I want to show other people that it's possible and that you can do it. So, being a leader, it comes, not to sound cocky, but it comes very natural for me because this is the position that I love to be in and what feeds me the most.
It doesn't surprise me in the least. Were there pivotal moments when you look back where you had that realization that I do like this teacher coach kind of role, like that's maybe what I'm meant to do?
Yeah, when I don't know if you're talking about like in childhood or in my career, but I will say when I was a kid, I'd play teacher with the other kids in school, I don't talk about that too much.
So it's deep in you then.
For sure, I'd say so. I'm a big sister to two younger siblings too, and I was very involved, so that's a big piece of it. Back in 2020 though, when after my first year as an agent, I made my first $100,000 in my first year, and I started making TikToks about it, and I was like, this is how I did this, you guys can do it too, just go get your real estate license. And I got so much positive feedback, my following was growing, and that was a very clear sign to me that I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant for.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, and since you brought this back up, I want to tap into that. When you started in TikTok, or when you started doing more social presence, and by the way, for those that don't know, you have a massive social presence and done a great job there. Was that like intentional? Like, hey, I want to be this influencer, I want to be this thought leader, or was it kind of happenstance? How did you come to be so prolific online?
Yeah, I'll say that I had dreams when I was younger of like being big on YouTube, because that was the big thing back then. But when TikTok came out, I was very like, I'm not getting on TikTok, no, for like a couple of years. And then of course COVID hit and I was bored. So I started scrolling through and I'm like, oh my gosh, people are like getting big views for nonsense. And especially after I learned what I learned in real estate, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is where you build wealth. People need to know this. I don't hear anyone talking about this. I started talking about real estate on TikTok, and that was, kind of the reason behind it, of making my first few videos. And of course, I was just proud that, I accomplished so much and I wanted to share. And so, creating those videos is where it really took off.
How did you see that manifest? I mean, what sort of feedback or actual engagement were you getting that was driving wealth or driving opportunities?
The number one question that I got then and I still get now is how do you do it? How do you start? How do you get into it? And that's where I realized, okay, people don't have access to this information. Like, I grew up understanding what real estate is and buying and selling houses. And so this is where I can be of, service and value to an audience of here's exactly how you start in real estate.
And do you just put that out there with the intention that if I put out this positive energy, put out this helpfulness, that, some way, somehow it's going to come back in positive vibes?
Pretty much, yeah. I didn't have any clear plan or intention with doing TikTok or anything online. My first video went viral and I was just like, okay, so this is actually, there's something here. It just feels like a blessing because I could have just made videos and no one watched them and kept trying to make videos or quit or whatever. And my life would be a lot different if I hadn't.
Do you also get the kind of the haters or the people that are dropping negative comments and just things that are, I don't know, there's often people that will drop stuff in just to undermine you?
Yeah, it got to me when I was 19 and 20.
Yeah,
it still
especially
gets
at that
to me
age.
some days. Oh yeah, I had one video in particular, it hit 8 million views. It was about house hacking. And it was just a little skit, and I was telling the person that I was renting out half my house, and so I only pay $200 a month to live here. 10,000 comments, and they were all hate. Oh, landlords are terrible, you're leeches on society, blah, blah, blah. 10,000 hate comments, but that video gained me 150,000 followers.
Okay, so how did that feel? I mean, what were the emotions running through you when you saw that?
I actually, at that time, I was like, okay, I'm no expert. I haven't been doing this for 20 years. Are they right? Am I a fraud? Am I doing something bad? It did get to me for
Right.
a long time. And I looking back, knowing what I know now, I totally would have responded back to the comments and blah, blah, but I just went silent for a long time after that. I didn't want to make videos anymore.
Yeah, I totally get that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of, their curiosity is should you engage in that? Do you just let that roll off your back? Whatever, there's going to be haters, there's going to be negativity, and you just kind of focus on the things you want to take from it?
They say if you have haters, you're doing something right.
Right.
So that's where, my lesson or my silver lining with that video was that it did gain me hundreds of thousands of followers, and so it made those 10,000 hate comments small.
I like the intention, though, that you bring to it, and I try to do the same. I think, it's not about getting online and doing a flex or a brag. It's about sharing what you've experienced, sharing knowledge, and for the sake of helping others. And if people find value in that, then awesome. And if they want to see it as you self-promoting or whatever else, or whatever they see it as, then so be it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Do you now see that, now that you have this kind of massive following and you've had tons of viral activity online, is it starting to translate? Are you starting to see this in deal flow? I mean, you find potential buyers and sellers, or is it more just about sharing experiences and being helpful?
Yeah, the benefits that I've seen for my business, they've been pretty huge. The big benefit is growing my team. So the people on my team, they've already seen me, they know what I'm about, they like me, they trust me. So there's no hard sell with, getting people in my office to go find deals. And it's a very mutually beneficial ecosystem because I help them, they help me. That, and then, locally, I am attracting a lot of people who want to buy the deals. I'm looking at investors. I've become well known in the local investor space. Seattle investor community is very active. It's a very interactive, lots of activity, lots of events going on here. So when I pull up to events, a lot of people already know me. Hey, I saw you on Instagram, blah, blah, blah. So that's been really cool. And it just helps a lot with building credibility and trust with people here locally.
Yeah, I can imagine it would. Kind of have a little local celebrity aspect. And I assume that sometimes even people that you work with where you're buying maybe even have awareness of you, and so that shows oh, this is a trustworthy person and they've got a lot of experience and reps in this.
Exactly. Yeah. When I'm working with someone new, I tell them if they're asking me a bunch of questions and being suspicious of me, I'm like, yeah, well, if I'm lying to you, man, you can just go cancel me online.
So, I mean, with all of that success and all of the kind of impressions and awareness that you've established online, you're still going to kind of a targeted outbound lead gen, though. You're still utilizing like the phone
Right.
and other channels. Why is that? I guess maybe first off, why have you settled on things like targeted outbound activities?
Well, our average seller is about 65,
Okay.
and they are not on Instagram or TikTok. um, that's kind of the business model that we've created is, with the cold calling, it's been most effective. We could get into the online ad space and all of this and doing videos. Maybe it is next for us, but, I believe strongly in the organic reaching out to people.
Yeah, I do as well. I mean, I think that any channel can work, right? But I love the control that comes with targeted outbound, like whether that be phone or email or direct mail or whatever. There's the ability to quickly engage versus kind of casting a net and hoping somebody comes in or somebody searches for the right thing. That feels very passive to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you've experienced that too. What's next for the company? I mean, I know you're cranking off great revenues every year. What's the target for the year, and kind of what do we expect to see from you?
Yeah, the goal is 1.5 million for 2025 in assignment fees. We did about 950 last year. So we're going to crack 1 million this year.
Nice.
We're on pace. We're already doing really well here in February. And then from there, I didn't know what I was going to do with this team when I started it a couple of years ago. But I do think, and I see us going towards just scaling up and mostly basically being like a full-blown local academy of, hey, come in and learn how to find wholesale deals and build your wholesale business. That's where it's going.
Have you seen that now with the folks that you have worked for you? I mean, are you essentially kind of a farm team where you're helping people build skills and then they go out and do it themselves?
Exactly. Pretty
Right.
much, I've had a couple people who go out and they become independent, and that really is the goal and the intention, because I don't necessarily want to, keep you in a cage forever. I want you to build a business, because you go find deals, maybe I'll buy it one day, maybe I'll help you find a buyer one day. We can still always work together, and we do. But some people do also just appreciate the local team culture and, the done-for-you-ness of being on the team and having the systems already in place and all of that. So
I love your outlook on that. I mean, I think sometimes I see small business owners, whether it be in real estate or other, where they're building employees up, they're helping to develop them, and then they get so pissed when they see that person now go out and be a competitor.
Right.
But I think you're looking at it a different way, which is far more healthy, which is, I'm going to create skills for people, and if they go out, then there's still maybe opportunity to work together and to benefit, and that seems a lot more productive to me.
There's plenty of business. There's way too many houses to sell to worry about all of that. And it's not about that. It's about living life and just having a good time. Life is not about that one deal you lost to somebody and blah, blah, blah.
It just makes me laugh because there's a lot of wisdom there for a 24-year-old. That's great. What do you think about geographically? Do you anticipate expanding outside of Seattle? To your point, is there just so much that you can continue in that pond and be there forever?
Yeah, I love Washington. I love the market. The competitive edge is that I know this market like the back of my hand, and that doesn't really beat anything else when you are talking to sellers and you know the area and the neighborhood and the schools and blah, blah, blah. I have considered California. I can put that out. I've taken a few trips down there and I see the opportunity. It's very similar to Seattle. They're doing a lot of like similar zoning stuff and development. So if I were to go somewhere else, it probably would be California. But I like to stay in these big metros because these are where the big fees are at. And I'm about doing less work and making more. And so, I like the quality game of making really nice fees in major markets.
Yeah. And you've, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Seattle's been one of the more progressive cities in terms of allowing ADUs and higher density, so that creates a whole new opportunity for investors. Is that something that you're focused on when you're making investments?
Absolutely. That's all I'm focused on. I like to buy within the city of Seattle. Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
My box is these properties where we can, build another build a dadu on it, that detached additional dwelling unit.
Yeah. Is that something that you're trying to find kind of as you're building that list of, people that have owned for a period of time and have, 80% equity, all that? Do you also look at the building footprints or the ability to have an ADU structure?
I wish we could filter down to properties with ADU potential. But, like lot size and such and such. No, for the operation, I don't really tie it down to any buy box because we are just going through so much data. We're hitting everything anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I'm itching to buy something, then I will take the list and I'll go door knock. I'll go call them myself personally one by one because the deals we're doing are they're worth $500,000 in the first 2 years in equity just between flipping that main house and building in the back. So they're very much worth the increased effort.
Yeah, sounds like it. That's great. And if you could give some advice to somebody breaking into real estate investing, kind of maybe whether it's at early 20s or beyond, what would be the one thing that you would say, hey, you got to do it this way, or this is the path to follow?
My one piece of advice is to start with your why and your vision. I would say the one thing I had going for me back 5 years ago when I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life is I knew how I wanted my life to end up. I knew that I wanted to have a family someday and have children and just be able to live without worrying about money. And I worked backwards from there. And so even now I have my off days and I don't feel like going to work and I don't want to deal with all these people and all these deals.
Yeah.
But I just come back to the why of why am I doing this and what's my vision for my life. Thatch has us write 10-year letters. What does our life look like in 10 years? And that's been a pretty cool practice for just being really connected because this stuff gets hard and it just doesn't feel like it's going anywhere some days in an industry as volatile as real estate. So
where did you pick up that 10-year letter idea?
From Thatch.
From Thatch.
I don't know where he got it, but that's I'm in his inner circle, and he recommends, or every year the homework is to write your 10-year letter at the beginning of the year.
I like that. Mm-hmm. I have a similar model that we use for business, which is kind of your vivid vision, and about what does the business look like on all aspects, the customers and the market and how the press talks about us, 10 years out, and then to be able to pull that back and say, well, what does it look like in 3 years and in one? It creates so much clarity, I think, to then determine okay, what are the plans I need to implement now in order to make that 10-year vision a reality.
That's what we need, is the clarity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you, on that point, how do you continue to communicate that clarity with your team?
That's a good question, because people come onto the team that barely know what we're doing. I try my best to, do really good onboarding and training and everything. But of course, we get the questions that are, they're looking at the shiny object. Why don't we do online ads? Why don't we do this? This could work, blah, blah, blah. But just, at this point, I'm like, okay, just quiet, just listen. No, just, I don't know, I don't want to say setting clear expectations, but just reminding them that this is the method that works and this is going to take you where you want to go. It is important that, we do goal setting every month with the team, every week sometimes. What's your intention for the week, so that we can stay super clear and focused on, we're connecting it to where we want to go in life. Because no one wants to sit here making cold calls, but everyone wants to be on the beach in the summer, in December, and just take a vacation whenever they want. And so we connect, the work to the end goal.
I like that. One of my business coaches says that if you're not communicating your vision enough to where your employees kind of see it as a parody, they're just making fun of how much you talk about it, then you're probably not talking about it enough.
That's awesome. I'm going to take that. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Vayna, you are wise beyond your years, and I'm just so impressed with what you've accomplished and built, and wish you all the best going forward. Thank you for the time today. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Vayna, how can people get in touch with you? How can they follow you?
My name's not very common or anything, so if you Google me, you'll find me. But I'm very active on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. You just type in my name.
Fantastic. A lot of great content out there. Keep that going. I'm enjoying it myself. If you found value in this episode, please subscribe or share this with a friend or colleague that can value from this as well. And we'll see you on the next show.
Bye.